everyone. David Lebovic here. I am here to present to you a bit about some digital marketing. To quickly introduce myself, I have been working with the Expert Cafe on a few different projects in the past, and recently in talking to them, we were getting on the idea of basically digital lead generation, how to optimize digital presence. And I thought it would be helpful if maybe I shared some information on best practices and how to do that, as this is sort of what I do professionally. So I'm going to switch here to, I have a deck here. So I'm going to get into this. So essentially the topic we're covering off today is optimizing your online presence to reach your ideal customer. This applies both to consultants. This both applies to businesses. It applies to anyone really. Anyone could go about optimizing their digital presence. So quickly about myself. So I am the principal behind WSI Digital Strategy. It's a digital consulting firm based here in Los Angeles and a part of the larger global network of WSI agencies. WSI is essentially a network of really strong digital marketing professionals that affords me tremendous institutional knowledge and best-in-class digital solutions that I offer to my clients. Prior to that, I worked in-house, both in advertising and in-house, working with brands like Toyota, Lego, Star Wars, Warner Brothers. So I've got quite a bit of experience both in brand strategy and digital marketing as well too, which I think ultimately when you're crafting a integrated campaign, those things really need to speak together. So for the agenda today, what I want to begin with is really first start off with the state of digital media in 2022 and some recent trends. There's been a lot going on this year. In terms of privacy, which we'll get into, and also how privacy relates to your digital marketing plans going forward. Now, obviously, in the age of privacy, you still need to be able to collect data and ensure that it's actionable data. So I'm going to take you through some best practices, how you can go about doing that without doing things to harm your customers' trust in how you're collecting data. And finally, we're going to use this data, and I'm going to tell you about how, when, where, and how to message your audience using actionable collected data from your customers. So let's begin. So to begin with, so again, the state of digital media in 2022, I'm going to share quickly a slide from this information here was actually gathered by eMarketer, which is a really helpful newsletter. If in terms of marketing, I encourage you to subscribe to it if you don't. This was taken in October 2021, and frankly, there's been a whole lot going on from October 2021 up till now. It's only been a few months, but just to get into it, if you followed the news, there's been sort of the big three of Apple, Google, and Amazon have shared their financials in the past year, and there's a lot of really interesting data to come out of it. So obviously, the big story really is Facebook. Facebook, a couple weeks ago, lost $230 billion in market cap in one day, which is 26% loss in value of their stock, which is insane. Really what they attributed to their decline in profits. Mind you, they still had profits, just not at sort of the rocket ship pace they had in the past. But really they had a decline in profits and user growth for the first time in their history. The main reasons they attributed to is one, increased competition from apps like TikTok, of course, but also the iOS privacy update, which went into effect last year, which I will get into a bit further. But essentially, if you're not familiar with that privacy update, Facebook has much less actionable data in terms of how they go about tracking users across the internet. So, looking at this, basically, the main thing to take away here, Google and Facebook's revenue are trending down a bit, but even though the total ad revenue goes up, and that just means there's increased competition from, as you see, Amazon, which is steadily on the increase, but other social media platforms as well too. But I think it's helpful when you're talking on digital marketing. It's really looking at this data. It's really important to look at the numbers that basically Amazon, Google, and Facebook take up 65% of all the oxygen in digital media spent. Which is insane. Basically, 65%. They're so large and so powerful that essentially companies are now forced to market their goods and services on them in order to survive. Really, businesses can't. You can't be a viable business without being involved in at least Apple and marketing. I mean, if Apple and Google, if you're launching a new product, basically 50% of your revenue automatically goes towards those two companies alone. Basically, they've become a duopoly in terms of digital marketing. Amazon being its own marketplace is a little different, but if you want to get in the role of monopolies, duopolies, in triopolies in digital marketing, that's maybe a subject for a different webinar, but I'm happy to have that discussion. Anyways, going back to the data, so I touched here on Facebook, and really, a lot of the success in recent years has come, frankly, from copycatting. Whether it's from Snapchat and borrowing Reels, putting it on Instagram, or now with TikTok, they've taken their stories. It's been a really profitable business for them. Copycatting now, they're dipping into the metaverse. Is that going to really is that going to be their growth? I'm a little skeptical on sort of their vision of the metaverse. Can they keep copycatting other products to be seen? But at the moment right now, Facebook's in a very precarious position in terms of how they're going to go moving forward. Some other just quick numbers to tie off here. Google had $200 billion in revenue. And basically, their ads make up 80% of that, which obviously is quite substantial. Amazon had $31 billion in ad revenue last year, which again, that's more than Snap, Microsoft, and Twitter ad revenue combined together. So again, just to paint the full picture here of the triopoly, these are massive, massive companies and basically suck up all the oxygen when it comes to digital ad spending. And that's not really changing anytime soon. So I alluded to the privacy update. So let's talk about that for a minute. So basically, Facebook has been really, really successful in targeting ads because the way they've been set up is once someone clicks on an ad or clicks on content, they have the ability to track their behavior across all over the internet, across different websites. Now with the iOS 14.5 update, Apple's now requiring users to opt in to have their information tracked off an app. So that right there is a huge blow to Facebook's targeting. Really, the thing is with Facebook advertising is generally very top of funnel, and I'll get into what that means in a bit. But Facebook's very top of funnel, and without all the rich data they had before, the ability that they had to serve up ideal target audiences to advertisers, it's really decreased a lot. Now, I mean, basically, the reason why Facebook, the iPhone users are so important to Facebook is trends and data has shown that iPhone users typically tend to spend more on products than Android users. So having that data from iPhone is very, very important to Facebook. Moving on to a bit about I mentioned Apple here. I want to talk. I got muted there for a second. Basically, Chrome has a 65% browser share of the market. So while their Safari is a big deal, Chrome 65% of all internet users use Chrome. Google is actually in the process of starting to deplatform third-party cookies as well too. I'll get into that in a moment, but it's not just Apple that is getting in the privacy play. Google is too. So these are very, very big changes that are going on in the world of digital marketing. And to be an effective digital marketer, you really need to stay on top of these trends. So interesting point on Google though, as they are limiting the cookies on Chrome, they still will be tracking users basically on their other services, including Google Maps, search, YouTube. So Google is still getting a whole lot of rich data about their users. They're just not sharing with advertisers anymore in the future. So very interesting to see how that's going to happen. So what we're looking at here, basically, so Google, Facebook, the ability to track data on them, that's really starting to get scaled back. So what we're getting now is the emergence of first-party data. And first-party data, what essentially that means, it's basically the data of users when they come to your website or social media channels directly. So you may notice now when you go to a website, you get the little pop-up saying you need to opt in for the cookies. That right there, that's first-party data. And that's really the future of digital marketing here. Once you opt into that first-party data, the brand, the company can now track your browsing history, your location, purchase trends, all those things, and those things are ultimately used to customize your browsing experience and also display targeted ads as well too. Facebook, interestingly, is trying to get a little bit more into this first-party data play as well. If you notice, what they already have, Facebook Marketplace, but you start to notice more e-shops are on Facebook too. So basically, instead of customers clicking off of Facebook to go buy on another website, they're now offering brands the ability to sell products directly through Facebook itself, which again allows Facebook to capture more of the lower funnel data of customers as well too. Beyond website traffic, social media, once people opt in to follow social media, that's a great way to stay in contact. And also we'll get a little bit further down, we'll get into more of the role that email and SMS marketing is playing in terms of targeting your customers. So how are customers finding you online? So we're going to start here. This is marketing 101 in terms of the marketing funnel. Obviously at the top of funnel, awareness, further down to interest, consideration, intent, and purchase. Each of these areas of the funnel have a very specific role of different tactics you want to put in place to really get the most out of that stage of the funnel. And I'm going to get into, rather than reading it all here, I'm going to get into each level of the funnel and really explain how all these things work together and really the best practices you want to put in place. So When we're talking about, top of funnel, getting discovered, people first getting discovered by your products and discovering your products and services. Really, social, programmatic display, and SEO are really handy to do. I mean, essentially, if you're thinking of, to take the example of Facebook, for example, in the role of a paid social ad, you're on your Facebook feed, you're scrolling through, and an ad pops up. Now, you may not be looking to say buy that cool new pair of shoes right now, but by seeing that at the top of funnel, you may click on it and go through to another page. But that's bringing the initial awareness for you now too. And Google and like search ads, that's a bit further down. We'll get into like the role that plays as well too. But really, with using the first party data as you are. At the any data that you have, you can create lookalike audiences on Facebook based on your first party data. So that's another way to sort of expand the net. And you can obviously test and optimize your different creatives and keywords, and then long tail keywords in SEO, which I'll get into in a moment. But long tail keywords are sort of the secret of sort of a hack, if you will, towards digital marketing in terms of really getting those bottom of funnel customers who are ready to convert. So. I mentioned top of funnel. There's two parts. There's social media. For here, I'm just putting Facebook and Instagram, but there's also programmatic display. Programmatic display, if you're not familiar with that term, those are essentially like the billboards of the internet. Anytime you go on a website, you might see, just scrolling through a website, you'll see ads for Levi's or any given products. Those are the images you see on the different websites, and essentially those are being targeted towards you through programmatic networks where there's data of basically advertisers have data on sort of like your similar audience, and like they'll target those towards you. Really, there's traditional private programmatic networks, but what you're seeing here, actually, the thing in terms of the age of privacy, one of the latest trends I've been following is actually, it's called programmatic guaranteed. Now, programmatic guaranteed is a type of programmatic advertising, but instead of like leveraging a database, it's really a one-to-one agreement between a publisher and an advertiser. So what it is here, you would have an advertiser say, reach a deal directly with the New York Times to leverage their data as opposed to a larger network. It's a completely private exchange of data between one advertiser and a publisher. Typically, publishers are guaranteed a certain level of commitment from the buyer. So it's really a mutually beneficial deal for both sides. And I think programmatic is going to continue to grow. It's still a very important part of a media mix. One study I found says it's going to reach, actually, I shouldn't say that's not a study, it's historical. Programmatic increased 25% in 2020 alone. So, and that's going to continue upwards. And I think as more and more advertisers rely on programmatic guaranteed, it's a way of maintaining privacy while still, hitting top of funnel. Another benefit of programmatic is, lately Facebook and Instagram have implemented more restrictions on who, the type of products you can advertise, whether it's political, prescription drugs, cannabis. Programmatic networks are a great way to basically create awareness for those products off of Facebook and Instagram. So that's definitely a rich environment. If you work in that sector, programmatic is definitely the way to go to build initial awareness. So let's move on. So I mentioned long tail keywords. Now, long tail keywords are essentially defined as basically any keyword with three or more words at a time. So you see here in this graph we see shoes. That's very hot. That's very top of funnel. It's very high cost, a lot of competition, a lot of different people are looking for shoes. As you add more adjectives, more words to it, and you go farther down, you're getting the search volume is obviously less, but also people searching, say, specifically for red Nike men's running shoes are much closer to a conversion point, because obviously if you've narrowed it down to that specific thing, you have a pretty good idea of what you're looking for. So again, so long tail keywords are less competitive because less search volumes, higher conversion rates, and it's also less time to start seeing results. So really, to get the most bang out of your buck, you need to find those relevant high volume keywords and the right content that aligns with those keywords. And that's how you'll start your content will appear higher in search results for these keywords. So the reason why this is important, actually, so WordStream, if you're familiar with them, it's a very, very helpful resource, but conducted a study and then found that the top 10% of all landing pages converted at around 11.5%, but the average conversion rate for landing pages that utilize long tail keywords is about 36%. So right there, it's a 3 times increase in terms by leveraging keywords. So again, a very important part of the media mix to consider is your long tail keywords. Moving down the funnel a bit, now we're down into the interest. So we've got your customer. It's clicked over to your website from an ad or from Facebook or what have you. So now that you're on a website, how do we go about collecting their data in an ethical way? So, we had mentioned those first-party cookies, getting that opt-in, but it's also it's leveraging the opt-ins. But in order to do that, it's really kind of incentivizing it. So, not even just the first-party cookies, but oftentimes you'll go on a website, you'll see a pop-up for 20% off your first order by entering your email. That's a very ethical way to leverage opt-ins in exchange for basically giving something up in exchange for their data. So really, customers are found that sharing information such as gender, postal code, age, interests, previous purchases, all that stuff is viable data that consumers are generally willing and open to sharing with advertisers. So that's plenty good information to get started. So definitely something to think about as consumers drive to your website is really developing a relationship an ethical relationship at the beginning to get some of their private data, and also excellent customer service. It goes without saying. So if a customer goes and sees again that pair of red Nike running shoes, but you're out of stock, put them on an email list and as a reminder to put it back in stock. So again, try to be helpful. These are all very sort of kind of like no-brainer ways to collect data, like to engage customers, but it's ethical. And again, this is really, again, the future of collecting data. It's once you get customers on your website, it's doing what you can to get the data once they're there. So let's move a bit farther down. So into consideration. So what I have here is branded search and paid social retargeting. Now, branded search, again, this sort of ties into the long tail keywords, whereas someone originally may be searching for just tennis shoes on Google is now searching again for the previous example, searching for red Nike tennis shoes. They are farther down the funnel. They are more likely to want to buy. And again, with paid social retargeting, if someone's again click through on an ad on Facebook, that shows initial intent. By retargeting them with additional ads, it's just they're farther down the funnel. It's much more into consideration. I want to quickly highlight just some key stats here when it comes to customers searching for you online. And I won't spend too much time on these, but basically, you have 8 seconds. Okay. 8 seconds to have 8 seconds. A majority of visitors will spend on your website before leaving. So you need to have a strong headline, a strong value prop, strong offer that's clear at the beginning, or else you're going to lose them. Again, 96% of visitors that come to your website are not there ready to buy. Again, this comes into the consideration, again, the branded search, the retargeting. Someone may click through, they're not really at the point now where they're ready to buy, but maybe with a solid landing page, they're ready to come back again. Video is really helpful when it comes as well too. Video actively engages customers. It's much more effective than just plain text. So if you have the opportunity, I highly encourage you to make video where you can. A/B test, make sure everything is running quickly. These are all these things come together, greatly enhance your chance of moving that customer farther down your marketing funnel. So please take note of this. These are all very important things to have. Farther down, now we're into intent. So customers have come back to your website. Maybe they've gone and put something in their shopping cart, but then then left without buying. Maybe they've added something to like their wish list. But now we're getting closer and closer to the funnel. Hopefully you can see this on the screen. All right. What I wanted to share with you is actually a diagram of basically an automated email and SMS chart I put together. This is from a client. From another client of mine in the e-commerce space. But essentially what you do is this right here, what you see here is essentially the marketing funnel in place, whether people first find you on social media and they click through and they get retargeted. This is an art and it's a science, frankly, of building everything, mechanisms in place where you're not letting the customer get away. Even if they're not ready to buy it first, you're still engaging them with relevant content, moving them farther down the funnel. So having a very well-designed automated retention strategy is very, very critical here. There's a lot of great programs. I happen to use one called VBout. I'm happy to tell you more about it if you're curious, but there's a lot of great automated programs that should definitely be a part of your marketing mix if you're not using it already. So congratulations. They've gone through, they took a bite. Now you've had your customer go and they've actually made a purchase from your website, which is fantastic. I want to highlight here, this is a company called Feet. Now, I know for the past like 2 years, we've all been in sweatpants at home. So I've definitely engaged in, upping my sweatshirt and sweatpant game. Feet is a great company. In that space, I encourage you to do it. I found they've done a really good job of basically in terms of retention, customer retention by offering, gift cards on a subsequent purchase, creating a VIP private Facebook group for you to join and learn more about products. Just different ways to keep people engaged. I don't have a screenshot of it. Well, one thing that actually I thought was very persuasive, I had bought, I think, a sweatshirt or something, and immediately after purchasing, you get a pop-up on the screen saying, if you buy another sweatshirt right now, get this next sweatshirt on 50% off. So offering an amazing, crazy deal right off the bat, sort of while the dopamine hit's still going of making that purchase, really trying to push you to make another one. So there's a lot of really great customer retention that goes on, because again, when you're especially in the direct consumer space, but really any website, it's about customer lifetime value these days. So if you're going and if you've made the effort of through paid acquisition, if you're getting someone on your website, you really need to maximize their customer value, and that's ultimately all through retention, and by having engaging content over social media and email that makes people want to stick around with your brand. So let's talk about building your user persona in the age of privacy. So to this point, we've talked about the new data restrictions we have in place, the new privacy restrictions. I've sort of walked you through the funnel, how the different tactics you want to use to push them through the funnel. So how do we, in this age of privacy, how do we make all these pieces fit together, right? And so I want to take you, what we have here is what I call the 3 M's of marketing. And hopefully this sort of ties all the pieces together for you. But if there's one thing I've really learned working in marketing for so long, is the dirty little secret is that about consumer behavior is that people really love to get advertised to. It's true, but it has to be relevant and it can't feel forced upon them. Okay. There's a reason why DVRs have basically completely killed traditional TV advertising. I mean, you'll still have the Super Bowl, you'll still have, large advertisers doing things like that, but more and more advertisers are not putting their money into TV. It's just people don't want to have it feel forced on them. I mean, you may have video content online, which is different, but again, DVRs have basically, in my opinion, completely killed traditional TV advertising. To this point, actually, a recent study by Google found that not only do 65% of consumers have negative experiences when ads are not relevant, but a whopping 74% of customers only want ads that are relevant. So, I mean, those are pretty strong numbers, and I think it speaks very strongly to, again, the age of privacy here. We need to go to the extra mile to really customize content for audiences to ensure it's as relevant as possible. So, how do we do that? So, let's make it memorable. And what's that mean? So in terms of creating, when you were in the process of collecting user data, collecting first-party data, be as clear as possible and find ways to help users easily understand what exactly is happening here. So I see a lot of those first-party cookies that go on websites that, companies use on websites. Some I feel a little cumbersome, they're a little scary. I think that's really optimizing your first-party cookie messaging is very critical, and it's something that I don't think enough companies are really doing sort of in the best way possible. So I think you need to be very clear and very memorable about, hey, we're about to take customer data here. People that do consciously agree to share their data, studies show have more positive reception to the ads presented to them. They find it more relevant. So again, it's being clear upfront what transaction is happening here. Next, make it meaningful. So, when people see value in this exchange of data, they're more likely to engage. They want to share the data with brands, and they find future exchanges more valuable. Globally, 9 in 10 adults say they are more likely to shop with brands that provide them offers and recommendations that are relevant for them. Now, I know that to be true. I'm one of the people, I'm not as reticent to share my data. I find on Instagram, I like having highly relevant ads. I like content that is customized to me. And I think in general, it provides a better shopping experience for not just for me, but for anyone. So I think, again, people want to feel customized. They want to feel special. They don't want to just be, another person that was targeted from, just from a third party cookie. Lastly, we need to make it manageable. So in this exchange of data, there needs to be an out point. There needs to be a point where customers can feel like, okay, I don't want to, I don't want this anymore. The initial purchase is great. I want to move on. You need to have clear unsubscribe buttons on your emails. There needs to be full access, full control of the settings. So whether if it's not like a partial unsubscribe, it can be a full unsubscribe. It could be about removing your cookies. All these things need to be offered up to your consumers. And once a consumer has made a choice, it absolutely must be honored. People are 3 times more likely to react positively to advertising when they feel they are in control of their data. And again, when you look at sort of the blowback that's gone on with Facebook and beyond just the iOS update, some of the scandals that have sort of come out from there, it's been a company that has been really reckless with people's users' data, and it's come to pay the price of it for them. And I think the more that businesses and brands can get ahead of that and respect user data, the more trust they will be able to build with their audiences. And really, that is the future of building in the age of privacy. That's how you build your audience, and it's through trust and it's through relevancy. So we actually blew through this a bit quicker than I thought here, but hopefully you find it helpful. But I just want to leave it here. I'm happy to, whether you just have general questions, you need any consulting, you have, maybe you have concerns about sort of the level of privacy that you're using in your marketing campaigns. I would love to talk with you, and you can reach out to the Expert Cafe. They'll put us in touch, but hopefully you found this helpful. And I know I had a really good time putting this together. Honestly, I've been working on this presentation for a few weeks now. And, even with the recent news of, Facebook's earnings and, just the constant ongoing changes to privacy, I've found myself sort of revising my slides at the last minute. I find this terribly interesting. And I think going forward, to be successful in marketing, this is just really something you need to be mindful of. So I'll open up to questions, but again, I want to say thank you to everyone that attended. Hopefully this was informative, and I sometimes speak a bit fast. Hopefully that was not the case here. I get a little excited, but if you have any questions or anything, I'd love to hear from any of you. But what I'll do now is I'm going to exit out of this, but please, if you have any questions, put them into chat. For a nonprofit without a devoted digital marketing person. That's interesting. Well, that's interesting. Again, I think it's about, especially with nonprofits, it's about sort of your mission. And I'm actually in the process of, I have just onboarding another client in the nonprofit space, but I think it needs to be clear what your mission is. And I think obviously a nonprofit's work is never done. Doing what you can to onboard users into email marketing, whether you have periodic fundraisers, making them aware of that. I think again, it's being clear what your mission is and how you're going about changing the world. And again, when it comes to the donations, it's not something. I mean, there are people that donate a lot, but to be honest, a lot of people donate selectively, I suppose, whether it is a certain cause or maybe end of the year, they're do some for tax purposes, but again, it's just being relevant to what's going on in the world and just creating content that people find relevant, I think. Influencers. So influencers is interesting. So what I would say about influencers, so there's sort of 2 parts. Influencers, I would not just, if you go in to work with influencers, I think it's about, you need a defined set of deliverables. I would not go and here we go. I would not simply just give influencers product and say go to town. I think you need to set list of deliverables. I think another angle you want to look at with influencers would be affiliate marketing, and this is pretty common, but essentially going and offering them a code to promote it. So say you're selling again a pair of shoes, use my code XYZ123 at checkout and get a 22% off. So what that does, that again, it shows attributable, and it gives them incentive to promote you, because through an affiliate marketing they'll get a piece of that. But again, it gives you hard data as to which influencers are working for you and what aren't. Okay, we are good to close here. So nice chatting with all of you, and take care. Have a great Thursday and rest of the week.